Is this Jamie? We just had her enter the room, so we should be ready to go here shortly.
Yay, she made it.
Yay. Hey, Jamie, can you hear me? Hello?
She might be having audio problems.
Get Jamie in. Who else is from the East Coast? Anybody?
I am. This is Crystal. I'm in New Jersey.
Hey, you're in New Jersey too? So Andrew, Crystal, that's cool. I actually moved out here from California, so I love it here on the East Coast.
Where are you now?
I'm in Indianapolis, which is sort of East Coast, I guess.
Yeah, East Coast
Yeah.
time zone. I've been there a couple times. It's a pretty fun city.
Yeah. Nice. I've yet to go to New Jersey, but I'd love to.
You're closer.
Yeah. All right. Jamie? Jamie?
I think she logged out. She's trying to come back in.
Oh, okay.
Let me ask her.
Anybody else? Everyone else is in the West Coast, like San Francisco. I know Adam, right, is from the Bay Area too. Yeah, I moved from the Bay Area too. Adam, you there? Still waiting on people. Oh, there it is. Jamie.
I am so really trying here. My gosh. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? It's okay. Welcome to Talking with Chasing Unicorns.
Thank you. I made it. How are you? Amazing.
Good. Yeah.
I know. I'm so sorry.
No worries. So first off, I'd like to welcome you. I wanted to just see if you can give us a brief intro. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Jamie Moore. I'm currently an executive assistant to two vice presidents in engineering at LinkedIn, Arthi Vidyasegar and Maria Zong. They are two female engineers. vice presidents. And I take both of them, and we have a team globally right now of about 500 in our division.
Awesome. So LinkedIn, you're out in Sunnyvale, is that right?
Yeah, so our seat is in Sunnyvale currently, but we're not it.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is. I grew up around there, Ticonderoga Road, Lexington Road a little bit, but I know it's changed a lot, especially with Apple there with Cupertino.
Have you seen that spaceship over there?
No, I haven't. I actually moved out to Indianapolis,
Oh.
so I haven't been out there in a long time. So
it's quite amazing. I mean, I lived across the street for many, many years prior to it being built. So going back into the area and seeing like the streets that they've gotten rid of and how they've kind of compressed the neighborhood to have that is quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and why don't you tell us first how you got started off as an executive assistant? What led you on that path?
I really didn't think that I was going to be an executive assistant. When I grew up, I was going to be an accountant, or I was going to be a chef.
Chef. Interesting.
Neither one of those are really an executive assistant, but I always fell into a role where I was the one that helped everybody with everything. And I don't know if that's more of a personality trait or if that's more of just wanting to get stuff done, but I would offer myself. What can I do? How do I help? How do I help you? What can I do? And at the time, or my background as I came into the corporate world is in finance, and I have a finance degree. So I came into like electronic arts and places doing actual financial work, procurement work. And then I was in the IT department. And so I worked really closely with a bunch of vice presidents and just a lot of people. And I was actually spending about $187 million all by myself putting in PRs. And one of the vice presidents said, I would love you to be my assistant. And I had friends that were assistants, but I didn't really know what assistant was like at a job. I'm like, what do you mean? I do all that stuff. And they're like, well, no, there's an actual person, take care of, and and that whole thing. So, so I left being in finance and I went over to being an executive assistant at Electronic Arts for an IT department, and just really kind of found a home there.
Yeah, okay. Electronic Arts, is that over in Foster City? Because I seen one there too.
Redwood Shores, yes.
Redwood Shores, yeah. I used to work at pretty close. And actually, I'll be honest, I walked in one day for an interview and I just saw this big screen and they were playing like Battlefield 4 on it in the lobby. And I was like, oh, cool. Wrong building. So, yeah.
I started my EA career there, really. I had a great vice president that was amazing and just surrounded me with people and resources and just taught me and helped me learn. We were there together for quite some time, maybe I want to say the whole tenure that I was there was 6 or 7 years. That's funny, Jenny, yeah. And then he left and he went over to HP. And so then I was like a super sad puppy dog. Like, what am I going to do? Like this guy who's so amazing to me and I love my team. And the Friday of the first week he left, he called me and he said, I need you. I need your organization. I need the rhythm that you give. I need, your personality with employees. I need you. And so I went to HP.
Got it. Okay. Jenny, I love that comment.
Isn't that cute?
EA at EA. That's pretty good. So, and then so was that the first time you had really been exposed to, an executive assistant, excuse me? Were you like interested in the field before at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really understood how it all kind of came together. I had so many friends like CFO assistants and other people that were, in my circle that I knew of that were assistants that I absolutely loved. And they're like, Jamie, you're doing all this assistant stuff and you're in finance. So, and then those, for some reason, I always ended up being very close friends with all the executive assistants. And I think it's because I was kind of doing that role anyways with, doing my finance as well. So I think they saw that in me. And I think that that's how I kind of got grabbed into the EA role.
Yeah, I bet there's definitely there has to be some sort of, personality type, I guess, that, that does the job. I think, I actually was an admin assistant, so not even close as far as, the people I report to, but I think there's definitely got to be some sort of resources that helped you on your journey. Were you like an admin assistant at all before, being the first people see, when they walk in the door, last person they greet? I don't know, were you ever doing that or?
Let me think. So I would say yes, way back when I was much, much younger, like, 18, 20s in college kind of thing, I was doing finance, but they always needed somebody to cover the receptionist at lunch. And I would be the first one to be like, I'll do it, because it'd be new faces in the door. And once again, I think that's kind of my personality. Like, I just want to help. And so, yeah, so I knew what it was and I knew about it and I knew, but taking care of an executive is a whole nother ball game besides being an executive assistant. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's your favorite memory? I know sometimes people have memories regarding executive assistants. What are some of your favorites?
Well, there's so many things my teams have done very great. Of course, right now, LinkedIn, we're in the middle of the hiring, whatever you want to call it in the world is today. And the teams are just busting out programs and things for, worldwide. It's just amazing. But one of my most proudest moments would be when I was at Electronic Arts. It was my first time ever being an assistant, and we were rolling out a global financial system, which our systems in EMEA versus America were separate. And so it was the IT department that I was supporting at the time. It was a 24-hour global initiative. We had war rooms going on in like several locations. I mean, I had them stocked with food 24/7. I had just everything the team would ever want or need. And we ended up coming in under budget and on time. And I mean, it was just really a heroic effort. And I know the engineers are doing what they do in the background, but if I wasn't doing what I was doing, they couldn't have done what they did, kind of thing. So I really think there's a pattern and a flow to what executive assistants do, kind of within the group. I mean, you're very much, a kind of temperature checker, like,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. So, and this is kind of a little off topic, but have you ever had to train other staff, for instance, to do what you had to do on some days, if you were short-manned or there was someone not in the office, and or was it more of something that you did all by yourself and you had to remember,
Which part are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. Have
that?
you ever had to train other staff to do what you had to do?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to train people. It's hard though. Like, we keep documents at this level, like what they like, how they like it. I mean, at the executive assistant level, we have, what they eat, where they live, how they eat. So if I'm going on any kind of a break or vacation, that's where I start. I will start at that document. I do train people all the time. I have a junior assistant, of course, that is under me in my department. And I have two VPs and she has one senior director. So there's three of us that run two of us that run a 500 person department. So that's a constant training, right? Like constantly working with, constantly growing, constantly helping.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
And in reverse too, right? Like, she has great ideas and she's super smart, and things I don't even think of, she does. So I mean, that's where the training is kind of going both ways.
Okay, okay. Now, as an executive assistant, is there any, I would say trade journals, magazines? I know it's a little bit, it's sort of my own question here, but was there any news sources you were drawn to that you thought, oh, this is cool, like I read about it and it really helped you in what you're doing now? Or
So there were some associations that kind of popped up in maybe the last 10 or so years, or maybe a little bit less, I think, or maybe a little bit more, I should say. There's one that's like the International Admin, it's like
executive
IAA.
assistant.
Yeah, it's like this really long name, but I know they do really some great global stuff. I've been to some of their seminars. I've definitely taken like classes and things like that. There's EAO, Executive Assistance Organization, as well, which is ran, I think it's locally out of the Bay Area as well, and then it's gone global. And so those are things that I've turned to, that I've done training on, that I've paid attention to, or that I've learned from.
Okay, cool. And then what else was I going to say is there any sort of like advice you'd like to give, someone who wants to start off as, say, an executive assistant? Do you have any specific advice for them, or?
I would say if you want to be an executive assistant, for me, it's kind of two layers. It's the company, number one, right? Because that's the most important thing. And the company is my benefits and my lifeline, right? My longevity is the company. And then secondly is obviously the executive. But you also have to remember, when you're doing that role, anybody could be in that executive seat at any moment, right? So even though I say I support these two most fabulous people, tomorrow they could not be there, and I'm still the executive assistant for the engineering team that I'm an executive assistant for. If that makes sense. So I would definitely say make sure company is number one that you're looking at, because you really have to be happy in the long run. And secondly would be, remember that executive at any moment could be, could leave on their own or whatever, and you are, still there, the executive assistant
absolutely.
for that whole
Yeah.
department. So.
I totally, it's a very respectable job, in the fact that, there's a lot of quote unquote executives out there, particularly in the Bay Area, who don't have quite a good rap, but we won't go there. I'm going to go ahead and ask one last question, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for the floor. Are there any traits that make a good executive assistant, you'd say? Or?
So I feel like there's always two executive assistants. There's a person that's super head down, and they're like one-to-one with their executive, and they don't want to answer any questions kind of person. There's also an executive assistant where it's very open and friendly and like is the pulse for the team and that kind of stuff. And I think you can really be either, depending on what your executive wants, right? For me, I am kind of the pulse of the team. I'm making sure everybody's okay. People come to me, I have a chief of staff. We talk constantly. And so, yeah, it's just.
Absolutely. Awesome. So let me go ahead and just go to the, open up the floor here if anyone has any questions.
Okay.
Hey, Jamie, this is Crystal. I have a question.
Sure.
I'm curious to hear, I'm imagining that there's times when you're working outside of hours or the weekends and stuff. So how, can you tell us about a time when that happened, and like, how do you balance and manage it all?
I am the first one to walk in the door and say that I know my job is 24/7, and my job is 24/7. It is, it's not only doing this work, but it's also engaging in the people that you support, their lives, right? These are live people dealing with live family issues or moments or whatever it may be, right? So it's the balance between taking care of them and what they need, and then of course taking your own time. I mean, most often you have executives that are very respectful of your time, and you wouldn't have to worry about the 24/7, but being a global company, I do see that more and more, that time is almost like hospital. It doesn't really matter. We're a global company. So I just work 24/7.
You're really dedicated. That's awesome.
I know. Most bosses will say, "Oh my gosh, you don't have to work 24/7," but when they text me at like 10 and I respond, they're very happy.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I don't know if I'd be able to answer my phone at 4 a.m. for a boss.
I
But,
do 24/7. It could be 2 a.m. It could be 4 a.m. Like, you just never know. I mean, whether flights are canceled, you know, they could be like right now, COVID, obviously we're grounded, right? More or less, but they could actually be in another country, which is upside down, like in India, and it's totally upside down with us. So, I mean, I've actually slept all day and worked all night because they're on the ground. So flexibility.
yeah, no, I totally understand. I had another question for you, but if I remember, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions or? Okay, so it's Matt, and he says, what characteristics do you see in successful executives? He's got no mic on, so.
Successful executives, like super open, flexible, but I also think they have to like push really hard, and they're there for a reason. So, you know, I think executives kind of get a little bit of bad rap at times about, you know, maybe not being so kind or maybe pushing harder or whatever, but I think that's what makes them who they are. And I think that's why you want to be on their team, is because they're doing amazing things that are pushing the envelopes or boundaries, or innovative executives. Like, I work in the engineering department, so they're very innovative, right? Everything they do, they're just thinking constantly. So being really creative executive, and just being open, flexible, but you know, they got there for a reason. You know, they're executives, so.
Right. Actually, and then I had another question
Yes.
for you as well. Was I had seen on LinkedIn you guys are coming out with some sort of story mode. Did that come out already? Or?
It did actually come out already. I believe that they've launched it. So they're trying to do, you know, newsworthy stories more than, you know, Facebook type stories. It would be more of a newsworthy type story. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It should be rolled out.
Awesome. We've got about 1 minute left, guys. If anyone has any other questions here from LinkedIn, executive assistant. Actually, I have one last question for you. Where did you work at before you started working at LinkedIn?
I left Facebook to come.
Oh,
And
okay,
prior to that, I was at Pandora in Oakland, which I really loved. I supported the CIO there, Steve Ginsburg. He was there since day one. Like, Kim Westergren ran down the street after him to get him to come and work for him, like all those years ago, into a little room that Pandora started at. And yeah, so I went from Pandora and then Facebook to LinkedIn.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, guys. And thank you so much, Jamie. It was
thank you, everyone.
Learning about everything you do. And I will go ahead and close the door now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have an amazing day. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jamie.
Welcome. Good night.